want to go through the card. We'll start at the bottom and we'll work our way up. The first fight, Mark Chamberlain was promoted by Frank Warren, fighting a local guy, Josh Padley. He's fought on the GBM shows. I think it's quite a funny story because I think he got the phone call the day before the press conference, and he just rocked up the next day, and obviously he's got that date. What do you know much about Josh Padley?
Yeah, I do. It's a decent young fighter, decent fighter coming through. I think on the bill, I think when it comes to you asking for a prediction, I think Chamberlain might give him a bit of hellfire, but Padley's a good fighter.
Points, win, knockout.
Points like that's a long night. That is for those two.
Who's winning? You got to give predictions.
I'm going Padley.
Don?
I ain't seen either of them, so I can't predict on that one.
I'm going Padley.
Another one. I'll start with you again, Dom, because you've been in the ring with this guy. Anthony Cacace is, I don't know if he's defending his world title or if he's been stripped or not, but he's fighting Josh Warrington. Big fight. Cacace had that big win last time round. Obviously, Josh is coming off.
Yeah, I was there for that fight, and you know what? Fair play to Cacace. He was great in that fight, and I just think that Cordina looked out of sorts from round one, and it's the same thing again. What did Cacace have to lose? Nothing. He'd been in with everybody. He'd had wins and losses, and it was just one of those fights. And he came through, and he did Cordina in. He looked shocking, Cordina, that night. He just didn't look right at all.
He's blamed weight, and he's
probably, and you can blame. He will be the way. It does happen, and sometimes, more times than often, you only realise it's the weight when you actually get beaten that way, because you'll box good. He had some great fights before that, Cordina. He looked great, Cordina, and then sometimes you might struggle a little bit more, but you do tend to outgrow that weight, and he was probably doing all right, and then he just got to that. That's the fight that he found himself out. No fighter's going to give up the world title, being a champion, because they might not win the next fight because of the weight, because they're getting a good payday. You give that title up, you're going to be boxing for a third of the money. It's almost like starting again. So boxers' careers are very short, so there's a financial decision to be made, and you can't blame Joe Cordina. He probably might have been his biggest payday in Saudi. He's not going to turn that fight down. What is he, 25, 26? Turn that fight down because he might not get. There's a real possibility he might never ever get that money again. So you've got to take the fight, and fair play to him. He probably didn't feel great. He probably, he might not have had a great camp. He might have had issues. He thought, well, I've got to take this fight. Atton did it against Manny Pacquiao. I remember the same kind of thing. And so you have to go through with it, and he's gone up a weight, and maybe he can re-establish himself at a higher weight, and hopefully he can, because he's a good fighter. I've had him at the gym a few times. Good kid, very talented. Because before that, he looked really good. Before that fight, he looked really good. Cacace against, who's he fighting? Yeah, I just think, as great a fighter as Josh was in his day, and I think this was shown against Lee Wood, that he always had that fast pace and that fast start that he could do for 12 rounds, and then it like 10 rounds, and when he got to Lee Wood, it was like he started to fade after 6 or 7 or whatever it was, and then he got caught, but he was still going full pelt at that stage. And then it's when he started to slow down, and Lee Wood had paced himself, is when Lee Wood started catching him, and all of a sudden he just, went like a tree being chopped over. So I think just Warrington's had too many hard fights, too fast a pace, and he's had a lot of wear and tear. And I think Cacace he's on the up and up, innit? I think Cacace will probably just be a bit too fresh for him, and a bit too seasoned now. You know what? Possibly late stoppage from Cacace.
I'm gonna throw a coin in there.
A curveball.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go for Josh Warrington. I'm gonna think he's got one last hurrah about him to get the best of Cacace. I know he's trained really hard. I know he's hungry again. Has he got what it takes? I don't think he's the fighter he was, but I think the fighter he is, if he can just pull out one more good night.
The thing is, Johnny, when you're saying about being hungry, it's like when you're a kid and you're hungry, you can eat like a 3-course meal. And you know as well as I do, when you get older and you're really, really hungry, you manage your first, I'm bloated now, mate, that's me done. I think that's where Warrington is. He's like, yeah, he might be really good for it, but you can only stomach so much, can't you?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So Cacace's got to really put him on the. He's got to be smart. He's got to test everything else about him, because if he doesn't, and he gives Josh Warrington any hope at all, Josh Warrington will slide through it, because I never in a million years thought he would be Kid Galahad. In a million years. I thought Barry's like he's got everything.
He's got decision.
He got decision, but he gave him hellfire that night, and I'm like, how can you make Barry, make a fight so awkward? So there's something about his style that is just wrong, but it's right. So I think if he can just
he would fight. Don't forget, he was winning that fight too.
He was winning it. But as Dominic said,
against Lee Wood.
Yeah.
As Dominic said, he ran out of steam.
Yeah, but you've got to remember that,
could he have not just got caught by a big punch?
No, but you've got to remember that it's like you were saying about Usyk, Tony Bellew saying that he puts you mentally under pressure, and he makes you think. And you said that Bellew was winning that fight, or Johnny said he was winning that fight at that point. Yeah. And sometimes with fighters, that's the plan, to let them get that far in front, to let them get comfortable and then get them complacent and then take them out. You see, and that's what Usyk is good at doing. He will let you go a little bit longer and a little bit further on, and then he'll get you. And that's what he did. And he's saying with Warrington, he'll get Willie. Well, he might have been in front, because Warrington would be in front because he's got a fast pace, but he's older now. Do you understand? And you can't maintain that pace all the way through for 12 rounds. Everybody slows down. Look at Klitschko against Tyson Fury. The signs were there in the 11th and 12th rounds against Fury. He started to fade. And when he boxed Joshua, he started to fade quite early.
What are you saying, Johnny, then? Are you picking Warrington?
Josh Warrington points.
Josh Warrington points. Big one. Willie Hutchinson, Joshua Batti. Willie's coming off an upset win, because not many people expected him to beat Craig Richards, especially in the manner that he did it in. Boatsi's coming in on form, and there's some proper needle. I think it's probably the only fight on the card where there's some serious needle. Both guys don't like each other. They sparred years ago, and I know Dom, you was at that spar, and I've seen Willie's come out and said that he was a stronger guy in that spar.
They sparred twice, and you've got to remember that this was actually the spar before Willie actually got beat for the British title, and maybe Willie just took a bit too much confidence from that spar and took his eye off the ball in the fight when he got beat. But a sparring session is a sparring session, and for the young kid coming through, which is what Willie Hutchinson was, it actually means more to you than the champion. Like, he sparred loads of people coming for world title fights, and he never looked very impressive at all, Johnny. And kids be walking away saying, "Phew, as he world champion." I remember one guy, Mark Hobson, who came down to spar Johnny, and he's a nice fellow, Mark Hobson, and he said, he sparred Johnny, and afterwards he was sat outside of the ring, and he just got a glazed look on his face. I went, "All right." He went, he goes, "Number of times I've been sat watching Johnny Nelson in world title fights, saying to me mates, I'd do him. Why don't that fella just hit him? Just hit him. All you got to do is hit him. He'll fall to bits." He says, then when you get in ring with him and you're trying to hit him, he goes, he goes, he was stood in front of me. He goes, I couldn't hit him. He goes, it's only when you get in ring you realise you can't do it. And that's the thing. But it didn't matter to Johnny whether he got in a sparring session and somebody dominated Johnny, because Johnny would just be practising defence. He very rarely practised attack, which you could probably see from his fights. But, so Boats is a bit more mature, a bit older, a bit more experienced, even though they've had the kind of same number of fights. But for me, he's been a very, very slow burner, Boatse. Willie's had ups and downs, and he's come through as a younger man. It's quite an evenly balanced fight, and you just can't go on that sparring session, because Willie Hutchinson had to, spar out of his skin. Otherwise, he would have got filled in by Boatse, because he's a strong, mature man. So they've both got insights of each other, and this is a few years back, and time's gone on, and Willie's obviously got a bit more mature man strength, and Boatse's got a little bit older and not being as active. So it's one of them kind of fights, and it's going to be a bit of a chess game, because it's going to be patience. If Willie comes out too fast, and Boatse recognises that, he might just play into his hands, or if they get into a bit of a tear up early on, it might work in Willie's favour. So it's actually going to come down to who can think through the fight better, who's going to negotiate the rounds better. It's going to be a real game of chess. It can't be crash bang wallop, because if it's crash bang wallop, like, any of them two could go.
Yeah.
Before we get to your outcome, Johnny, what do you make of the way both beat Craig Richards? Both contrasting fights, the way they both.
Yeah, but
is that factoring?
If Watson sleeps on Willie Hutchinson, he get his losers. You can't sleep on him because he'll old man him through, he'll hustle him. You underestimate and think there's nothing about this kid. Willie Hutchinson's a clever boxer. You know, and I said he's just a more refined, hungry version of a fighter that was called Tony Booth. Tony Booth was a really good fighter, but he's just had a journeyman's mentality. Willie Hutchinson can fight, he can box, you know, he can, and I mean old school boxing, he can box you, make you miss and make you look bad, and he's got a kind of madness confidence about him. So if Batti sleeps on him, Batti will lose. Yeah, he'll lose a fight he shouldn't lose. If Batti stays tight, keeps the pressure on him, he stays professional and brings out a top draw performance, he beats him. And Willie, I rate Willie. I think Willie's a really good fighter. And when he beat Craig Richards, I thought, bloody hell, I forgot how much of a nightmare this kid is. You know, because he can actually box. He's a very good boxer, but very underrated.
It could have been a flattering result for Willie with Richards. I mean, Richards gave Batti a really good fight, and you just don't. You never know with fighters when they start to lose their ambition. Do you understand? But you know. Not taking anything away from Willie, because we've always got to assume that fighters are going to turn up in the best possible way they can. And Craig Richards, we have to expect, even on a bad day for him, he causes people problems. So we've got to expect that he'll have looked and thought, well, this kid's been stopped, Willie Hutchinson, by this middleweight kid, and you know, or super middleweight. It's going to be easy enough, this, and he will have trained for that fight. We've got to assume that. So you know. Willie beat him quite convincingly, and nobody's ever done that to him. I think in this fight with Willie, I think it's going to be a really, really tough fight for Willie. I think he's going to win on a very, very, very close points decision.
You're picking Willie Hutchinson?
I've got to pick Willie Hutchinson because I'm always in touch with him. I know how he's training. I know he's living the life. He's away in Spain training. He's on lockdown. And he's been doing that for his last few fights, and that's why he put in such a good performance against Craig Richards, because he was locked away somewhere, all away from the distractions of his family, his friends, you know, on himself, just locked down and doing his stuff, and you know, in bed early, up early, running at 5 in the morning, doing his stuff. And he knows now. He was a kid when I got him at 18. I think he's 26 now. It's a long time's gone. And he never had that mature, even though he was a physically mature kid at 18 and 19 and 20, he wasn't a mentally mature kid. Now he is. And he's settled, you know, he's got his missus, he's in a settled environment, and all he's focusing on his boxing. So I just think with the youth and, you know, the ups and downs that he has had to come through a lot. And Batti's kind of, for me, I think Batti's coasted on his ability. I think he could have been a lot further along in his career. You know, he's kind of just use boxing for what he needs to. It's not like, for me when I look at him, it doesn't seem like he's had any real ambition to push forward, you know, massively and chase the big fights. Because what is he, 32, is he 33, 34?
Yeah, expecting him to be a champion.
You would have thought by now we'd have, but it's like almost like, well, I'm doing my thing. And
have been tied up, like better be rolled.
Yeah, maybe, but they can always, you can always, if you fancy your chances, you can always, these fighters can always give you a mandatory challenge, and if you really fancy that fight, you'll take them chances. But realistically, you wouldn't ever take a voluntary fight against Bivol or Beterbiev, because you know you're not going to get great money, and the chances are you're going to get filled in. So if you're going to fight them guys, you've got to fight them guys for the top amount of money, because it might be the last fight you ever have. That's why you're not going to be chasing them guys, and that's why Bivol and Beterbiev are now fighting each other, because there's big money at stake.
So you got really on a close points decision.
Very close.
I've got Joshua Batti. Same points.
Close points decision.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. 2 fights left. Tyler, Denny, Hamza, Sheeraz. I'll start with you, Johnny. Hamza's in the form of his life, and people were questioning his opponents, but last time round he's gone and beat another young, hungry fighter, Amo Williams. Stopped him in good fashion. Tyler, Denny, amazing journey, just keeps winning fights when he's the underdog. I think he's beaten about 5 or 6 or maybe 7 undefeated fighters. Incredible boxing record considering where he's come from. Does he beat Hamza Sheeraz?
Tyler Denny has overachieved in his career, and I think it's well deserved. If anybody deserved it, it's him. I saw him in Wolverhampton win the title. I think it was Wolverhampton. I thought if any fighter ever needed it or deserved it, was him, because the work ethic is ridiculous, and I think he appreciates every fight, every win from that point on. He's limited. but he's got a massive heart. He's got a big heart than everybody that he gets in there with. So it won't be about, if he loses, it won't be through heart. It'll be skill. And Sheeraz, you know, he has the skill. He has the skill. So therefore, don't go in there and try and fight 5 with Tyler Denny, because he'll do you, no matter how ugly it is. So if Sheeraz goes in there and boxes, I think he beats them on points, but it will not be an easy fight for him.
What happens? We need a prediction.
That's a long night. It's a long night. That's a points job.
2-4.
Sheeraz.
Okay. Close, wide.
You know what? It might be wide on the scorecards, but the fight itself will look a lot closer than what it is, because Tyler Denny will make sure if you're going to win the round, you've got to work for it.
Dominic, first-hand experience of Hamza Sheeraz when you was...
Well, I've actually had first-hand experience of Hamza Sheeraz and Tyler Denny, and
Just remind us about your Tyler Denny experience.
I had a guy called Rhys Cartwright from Leeds who was trained by
He's beat him, didn't he?
yeah, by Rick Manners, and it was an English title fight, and it was down in Tyler's neck of the woods, and he was we weren't expected to win.
How amazing is that, though? Looking at that, got beat.
Yeah, but the thing is,
more than years ago. Look where he's now.
Yeah, but the one thing about Rhys Cartwright is he was he'd been sparring with Kell, but very, very tough kid, very, very fit kid, and without taking anything away from him, it was really a case of that. Tyler Denny is a very good boxer. He had everything, and the kid I trained was quite limited, basic but strong and fit. And it was just the tactics. And he got wobbled a few times, my kid, but he won a very close fight. You could see Tyler Denny had got a lot of ability, and probably the difference there was just the people who had in the corner. I've got a lot of experience and knew how to negotiate the rounds. And at any time, Rhys Cartwright could have got took out. I kind of got a bit of a disagreement with Johnny, because I think Tyler Denny, for me, watching him, is a better boxer than Hamza Sheeraz. Hamza Sheeraz is taller, he's got a longer reach, and he can punch, and I think that's where the difference is going to be. I know he beat Felix Cash last time, Tyler Denny, but Felix Cash, he had arm problems, and not taking anything away from Denny, but Hamza Sheeraz has got, is a bigger puncher. He's probably going to be the biggest puncher that Tyler's faced, so he's going to have to be very smart, Tyler Denny. He's going to have to be in and out, and I think realistically, Hamza's got to, put himself onto Tyler, force himself on him, pressure him, hit him with the big shots and slow him down. I think Hamza wins points, or possibly late stoppage, or even damage to Tyler Denny, like cuts or something like that.
We're actually giving away an Usyk signed glove. Jump onto the Boxing King Media Instagram page. You'll see a post with the thumbnail of Johnny Nelson and Dominic Ingle pinned to the top. Just click on that post, the instructions on how to get yourself in the draw are on there. There's only about 100 people in the draw at the minute, so you got a good chance of main event. And it's interesting, we're going to speak about the main event. I saw Anthony Fowler come out and said the other day that he was at the sparring when Dubois and AJ sparred each other all them years ago, and he's saying that Dubois rocked AJ, and the coach Rob McCracken had to kind of pull him apart and give AJ time to recover. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what we've got. What we're saying, Johnny, I'll start with you.
Well, I had a dream.
You had a dream. You told me about this last time, yeah.
I had a dream.
I had a dream. Well, the dream was that Dubois hit AJ, staggered him, then hit him again. The referee jumped in. Then I woke up. So we'll have to wait till Sunday morning to find out.
To be continued.
Yeah, to what the beat to be continue is. I was down in London, and I saw Don Charles. I really rate Don Charles. I think he just has to have the right materials for fights to work with. And a couple of sparring partners that had been in with Daniel Dubois, and they just said it's war. It's been absolute war, and this kid just loves to fight. I think you can't have that mentality going in with a sharpshooter, big puncher like Anthony Joshua. And this is nothing. I'm not saying anything out of order. I expect Anthony Joshua to get the job done. I don't think the fight goes past the halfway mark. I do think this will be a really good, exciting fight. How do I read the dream? If the dream is how it was, Anthony Joshua got stopped. But I just can't. I think Dubois gets hit too cleanly, and you can't afford to get so cleanly from Anthony Joshua, because he'll take you off your feet. So unless they change something massively, I don't see it being any other way. I'm going against my dream.
What should Dubois do if he
Put him on, stay on his chest, keep him under pressure, make him have a tear up. Don't give him space to stretch and set those shots up. He's got to stick close and tidy with him, because that's when you'll catch Anthony Joshua. Ruiz did it. You know, you're getting close with him, make him crisscross swords with you. Usyk did it. So if he can get in close, I think that's the best chance Dubois has against AJ. If he keeps it long, he gets knocked out.
Why can't he do it? Because you're saying AJ wins. Why can't he do it? He's got youth on his
No,
side.
no, he's got use on his side, but he's as in Dubois, but he's just not got the experience of AJ. Dubois got an amazing jab, but AJ has one as well. And AJ likes to think about and sit on his work and wait. At that point there, Dubois got to take that time away from him. Don't let him think. Make him fight under pressure. Then when you fight under pressure, you make mistakes, and that's what he's got to do. Anything else, it'll be. I expect Anthony Joshua to get the job done.
So Johnny's got AJ within 6. What you saying?
Well, it's interesting that Dubois is at the age, I think, is the same age as what AJ was when he boxed Klitschko. And if I look at AJ at 27 and Dubois at 27, I would say that actually Dubois was a more accomplished. He's had ups and downs. He had the fights. AJ was really green in that fight against Klitschko, and he came unstuck because he started to gas really badly, and only for Klitschko and his team to get it wrong. Instead of jumping on Joshua at that point, they let him off the gas, and then Joshua stopped him. But you're talking about a 27-year-old then fighting a 41-year-old, so there was 14 years difference, whatever. Yeah, 14 years difference, and then Klitschko still gave Joshua a life and death in that. I don't care what anybody says, he gave him a life and death. A 34-year-old Klitschko that night would have beat Joshua without a doubt, and that's where we are with Dubois. Dubois 27, Joshua's 34, and Dubois is tough, he can punch, but the thing is, Joshua's gonna give Dubois problems that Dubois just won't have the solution to. That's what it's going to be down to. That's all it is, because he hasn't got the experience, you see. So, yeah, he can punch, that's his strong point. If you're going to beat Anthony Joshua, and especially if you're Dubois, it's a case of jab, feint a jab, jump in, grab him, keep on his chest, make it the dirtiest fight you can ever do, and take him out of his comfort zone, hit him in the body, hit him wherever you can, hit him round the side of the neck, wrestle him, punch him, get away with what you can. Because, like Johnny says, if you stand back off of Joshua, he's got good power when he throws his range, he knows how to line him up. Now Ben Davidson's showing him how to go about it. They'll be picking exact holes in Dubois' boxing ability. That's what they'll do. It'll not be like, whereas Dubois will be crash bang wallop, hit him where you can. They'll be picking specific shots.
Yeah.
Do this one. There's 3 or 4 or 5. You'd look at Dubois and think there's 5 places you need to hit him. A certain combination, but you're always going to get him with. That's what you're going to do. And it'll be more structured in what they're doing, whereas Dubois will be more of a jab and have a fight and just, whatever comes. There won't be no, I don't think there'll be any tactics involved. So, because he's more physical and he's more fit than his boxing ability, whereas Joshua's got a good level of fitness. He's now developing a better boxing brain. He's now developing better confidence, and he's got more patience. Whereas Dubois might want to being the younger man, might want to get into a tear up. And he can get into a tear up, but if he's got to be able to do it for 12 rounds, and he's got to keep close on his chest, and he's got to try and bully Anthony Joshua. That's what he's got to do.
The problem for Dubois is he's not capable of thinking in a fight. He's capable of remembering, but not thinking. And in a high stakes fight like that, you've got to be able to think and adjust on the spot. If you're going in there and say, I've got to do this shot, I've got to do that shot, that's Daniel Dubois. He remembers what he's been, but he's got to be able to think and diverse and think, I've got to switch something around. And I don't think he's capable of thinking a fight. I think he's capable of remembering, but not thinking.
He's in the moment, innit?
Yeah, so
and it needs to be a chess play where he's thinking 3 moves ahead, and I don't think he can do that, whereas Joshua can actually do that.
Yeah.
So what are you saying, Dom?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think Joshua for 1 minute, knowing what he knows now and the ups and downs he's had in his career and the people he's fought, he won't be underestimating Daniel Dubois. That's the only place where Joshua's going to lose. Ben Davison won't let him think that. He is a threat, Daniel Dubois, because he's physical, he's young, he's strong. But like Johnny said, is easy to hit, and you can't let anybody like Anthony Joshua with that kind of power hit you clean. And I you know, he's gonna hit Dubois clean, and Dubois will hit, you know, Joshua with some clean shots, but Joshua will probably be riding them. They won't be hitting him, you know, full on. He'll be getting him on target. He's hitting him clean, but Joshua, if he's got any sense, will be taking the power out and half stepping back, and they'll just be glancing. So that's going to be the difference, where I think Joshua's going to be more precise. He's going to know what, you know, is like 3 or 4 shots he's got to hit Dubois with, and he won't waste any other shots than the ones he's got to throw. That's it. So I'm going to say that stoppage after 6.
AJ wins after 6 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. It should be a fascinating event. I think before we go, Dom, you know, last time me and Johnny were here, we jumped in the BYD Dolphin.
You tried to put me in the boot. What are you talking
I tried to
about?
put Johnny in the boot, and he would have fitted as well, but he was too scared to do it. But today I'm going to look at this one, the BYD Atto 3 design. What's interesting to say as well, I know a lot of the people that watch our content got businesses, their own companies. From what I've been told by the people at BYD are selling out all the EV car companies in the UK right now. People are buying them as fleet cars, which you can write off as tax, the best tax rate.
We were all having the conversation before, and we've turned around completely. Before we got into an electric car, I would never, not a chance in a million years. Now I can't see it being any other way. And to be in an electric car, especially, so to be spoilt with one of these cars. My range is like 330 miles in my car, you know, and so to be spoilt like that, you forget what it's like to go into a petrol station. I pull up a pump to go and get a bag of crisps. I'm like, what am I doing? You know, so the convenience, if you plan it right and you've got a car with good range, you're laughing.
Johnny, where can you charge your phone? You're in bed and you're on your app.
Yeah.
I've even had a charger installed in mine. It's cost me a fortune. You know, you got yours for free because you blagged it. But I've actually got a charger installed yesterday on an app, laid in bed. Yeah, between 12 and 5, it's cost me 7p a minute.
Yeah.
And it's all, like I claim it on my business, it's a free car for me. And like Sam, the same. You know, not giving it the big sell. I've still got my diesel car, but when you get into
like a tank.
it feels like a tank. But this car, they're so smooth. You know, I mean, the amount of car you get for the money is unreal, and I'm glad we've had them, you know, for this period of time, and they're doing really well. You know, you won't look back, and my kids are saying, "Oh, you know, we having one of them cars." I'm saying, "Well, we might do," but it's a no-brainer at the minute.
The cost is massive. You know, you touched on it there.
It costs 7 pence to fully charge my car for 320.
£7.
Oh, sorry, not 7. Yeah, sorry. Yes, we said 7 pence, whatever it were.
7 pence a kilowatt.
Yeah,
That's £7 to get 300 plus miles.
Yeah.
So to get 300 miles in a diesel car, you're going to spend 50, 60, Range Rover maybe 80, 90 quid.
Yeah.
But you're going to get £7, 300 miles.
But you know, people obviously banging on a lot. I've had a lot of people messaging me. Oh, you know, it's wrong, this electricity and everything else. It produces electricity, but I'm with Octopus Energy, so it's like, yeah, we've got a lot of green energy going into the grid. You've got solar panels, you've got wind power. They are developing other ways to produce electricity, and that realistically, when you think about it, you see, go past people's houses and they've got little solar panels for powering the outside lights. People have got little wind turbines in. Eventually, when you look at technology these days, the way now the harnessing natural energy to produce electricity, well, you know, fair play. It might take a few years. But like I say, I don't feel guilty about using an electric car by any.
I do get a bit of flack saying I can't believe you've gone electric. I'm thinking, well, what? Why?
Yeah.
Just do your research. You know, do your research yourself and look at it and think. Look at the benefits. And at the end of the day, listen, I'm a tight horse. You know, and so to me, it's cheaper being in an electric car. End of.
And it's
factual.
It's saving 10%. You're saving like 80 odd 90.
It's like you're saving a lot of money.
Hey, do you know what the best thing is? There's no service on them, is there? You don't have to have an oil change.
There's no oil filters to change.
No brake pads.
No brake pads.
Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know the only downside? I've actually had to put air in tyres.
Have you?
I've had to put some air in.
Yeah,
That's it.
we're actually giving away an Usyk signed glove. Jump onto the Boxing King Media Instagram page. You'll see a post with the thumbnail of Johnny Nelson and Dominic Ingle pinned to the top. Just click on that post, the instructions on how to get yourself in the draw are on there. There's only about 100 people in the draw at the minute, so you got a good chance